Hi traders, I'm Adam and welcome to this week's weekly analysis brought to you by myself and Sabiotrade. As I've said before, obviously don't forget you can always access a discounted prop account membership if you want to using that affiliate link which is in this video's description. Okay, so let's have a look at what's going on. So first of all, euro dollar is battling with a key level. Actually, the dollar itself is battling with a key level of support, euro dollar battling with resistance here, but this is both good and bad, and actually more likely to be good here. We can see we're constantly testing this level of resistance, and if we have a breakout, we're likely to see the markets surge high. Now, one of the things I must remind you is this coming Thursday, we've got ADP jobs data coming out of the US, and we have Friday, we have the biggest monthly economic news, scheduled economic news announcement, which is US jobs data coming out. Please be very careful. Trading around this time is likely to be increasingly volatile, and that may be the very thing that causes the market to either reject or break through these levels. Now, it's looking more likely that it's going to surge to the upside, but until it does, we just can't assume anything. So Euro is looking increasingly bullish. In fact, what's interesting about that, very quickly jumping ahead, looking at Euro CAD, you can see we've got a very nice pullback here, the market intending to push higher. It looks nice overall, nice and bullish. If we have a look at Euro Yen, for example, here we've also got another flat level. Let's just draw that in. There we go. And so we've got a level of resistance. We've got a breakout level that is looming. In fact, there's quite a few of these other pairs where there's a little bit of a breakout level looming. Let's go back to cable. Cable is sitting here at a potential level. It's actually looking quite nice and bullish at the moment, trending higher, very nice and bullish overall. And so I'm expecting this to push higher, which is going to be an indication of a weaker US dollar. If we have a look at dollar yen also here sitting at a level of support. I'm just laughing because they're all so synchronized, whether it's inversely or not, sitting at a very nice key level there of around 146, let's call it 75, but testing that. And so you can see a lot of pushback on that at this point in time, but likely to ultimately break through that. Dollar CAD itself also sitting on a level of support. Let's just go through, get another level in there to draw this in. Nice level of support, which it's testing for today. Excuse me. And we could see it decide to push a little bit higher. But if we have a look at dollar Swissy, we could see we've got this descending triangle and a level of support where the market is likely going to break down and continue to the downside there. So we can see it slowly starting to slip and head a little bit lower. If we have a look at it from, say, for example, a weekly perspective, dollar Swissy is one of the closest charts that we have to the dollar index, so we could see what's happening with that. It's very similar, it's highly correlated. We can see here that the market has pulled back into the moving averages, and we can see the market slowly but surely edging lower, but most importantly closing lower. This current week already starting to close or push towards those lows, so that's very important excuse me, to see how it reacts to those levels as we go. So just here basically looking to see that dollar continue to weaken unless there is some sort of surprise event, something the market doesn't expect. And so weeks like this can be tricky because you can go one way the entire week and then reverse by Friday night simply as a result of the news on Friday, so be prepared for that. But technically the markets really want to break to this level of support even though they are bouncing off it. You can see even as I speak, you can see currently that candle looking a little bit bullish. Right, that being said, let's have a look one more on that list. Swiss yen also slowly but surely sort of creeping to the upside. They're also battling with a key level. Let's get rid of this Fibonacci. We don't need that anymore. And let's just put in one of those key levels as well. Let's just see here. You can see where that level of resistance is. Look, it's been support in the past. It's resistance now. This is something it has to break through. And if we have a look at it from, say, a weekly perspective or even more, you can see here that it's pulled back nicely and it's just edging up slowly but surely. So overall, this trend is still intact. The yen pairs have not completely kicked off yet, but I'm looking forward to them resuming their longer term uptrends. Ideally this week, but if not this week, then we'll have a look at them next week. Moving on to gold. So gold had an incredibly good last weekend. This week also pushing a little bit higher. They're breaking through that higher level of resistance and pushing on towards $3,500, $3,500 an ounce. So pushing up, looking very nice as a potential breakout. We'll see if it's going to be a failed breakout or not, because we have got that declining, or we've got that divergence, excuse me. So still waiting to see if ultimately that happens, but it is looking very nice and bullish. And even better, when you go through to silver, you can see it also very nice pullback. Silver having a good day today, breaking through. So I'll be looking for any kind of pullbacks this week to see silver putting back into those previous highs. This looking particularly just looking particularly attractive. Looking at it from a daily perspective, the trend looking very, very nice, and having broken through that, looking for any kind of pullbacks here, even on the 4 hourly for day traders, this looking particularly attractive. Then, moving on to crude oil. So crude oil is one of those things that people used to talk about a lot, but it just does ultimately seem to be falling out of favor. You tell me, it's not just my opinion, I'm pretty sure, but if you have a look at it, going all the way back to 2022, you can see that we're producing a series of lower highs coming down continually. we've now got the 50, the 20, and the 10 in a bearish formation. We're producing lower highs, lower lows. We've also broken through this key level of support. There we go. Actually come back and tested it for resistance, so far producing a bit of a bearish candle. So for the most part, it is a weak downtrend is how I would describe this. The MACD also moving into bearish downtrending territory as well, and also nice and convergent. Implication being this is heading lower. So all fair and good until you try and actually place a trade on this. You get down to the weekly, and this just turns into a little bit of garbage. You can't really see what's happening here. We've got a downtrend here, but it's not trending very well. If you go down even further, you go down to a daily chart, it becomes even more garbage. Okay, so this isn't really something that I would recommend traders engage in at this point in time. It doesn't really have a lot going on for it. There just isn't a lot happening for crude oil at this point in time. I don't see any high probability setups. Longer term trend is down. Lower time frame or shorter term trend is just all over the place. So it's up and then it's down, then sideways, then up, then down, then curving around, almost a teacup pattern. Doesn't really know what it wants to do, and it's not really offering any safe haven trades for traders. So exercising some caution there. Now, if we move on to the Dow, you can see here we are forming what appears to be an ascending triangle here, which is typically a very bullish signal. Overall, the trend pushing higher, looks relatively healthy and intact, and we've got the MACD trending higher. Okay, so for the most part, this looks nice and healthy. Let's have a look at the S&P. S&P here also an attempt to break out higher, pulling back, producing a bit of a bullish candle today. Also forming a bit of an ascending triangle here, but predominantly looking bullish. So the markets technically, at least in terms of price action, moving averages, moving average geometry, all looking bullish. Let's have a look at the tech stocks. So this is interesting. This one actually producing a lower high so far, but also finding support. Let's just go and mark that support level where we are right now. It's finding support around about that, and I think we can actually just thicken that up. Let's just go through, make that look at least visually obvious. Excuse me. So here we can see that finding a little bit of support around about that 23,330 level, and overall still producing higher highs, and that's very, sorry, beg your pardon, high lows, still looking bullish. But this I would show you. The distance between price action here and the 50 period is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. We've touched the 50 period over here. We're closer to the 50 period here. We've got this continued bearish divergence here. So this is known as multiple divergences, and this is hinting at a correction coming soon. But it's really how closely it's slipping to that 50 period. If it slips underneath that, we go into a downtrend, obviously with lower highs, lower lows. So these are the key levels we want to be paying attention to. Do I have a marker here? Let's just see if I can do this. We'll just use this line here. So this is really what we want to be paying attention to here. Whether we get that break below that, that is something we want to be keeping an eye on that. Over the coming days, I'm expecting to see if we break below this, but we are creeping slower and slower and slowly, but sort of lower and lower towards that 50 period moving average. With a continued divergence, we're either going to go through a consolidation before we break higher, or we are going to experience a bit of a correction. So we really need to break this low and possibly even this low as well, and then potentially find resistance. So we are heading into September. As I said, we're in September now, but we're heading into September, which is historically a bearish month. We could very well see a bit of a correction here over the coming weeks. Something to think about. The Russell 2000, quite interesting because so many of these charts are looking beautifully bullish. Russell 2000 putting back into the moving averages here. Very nice MACD convergence there. Also nice and bullish here, putting into a previous high. All of this actually hints at wanting to go higher. So there's a couple that look a little bit bearish, but otherwise the markets generally are looking bullish. Now we've got the FTSE back down at a level of resistance here. We're waiting to see if we get a nice bullish candle here, which could be a sign the buyers are returning. We could see a move higher. If we have a look at the Nikkei, for example, you can see here, especially if we've got a nice bullish bar today coming off these previous highs. Let me just put that in, and then let's compare that through. In fact, what I'm going to do here is just move that down. But what I want to do here also is look at it from a weekly perspective. So there we go. Beautiful, beautiful weekly pullback. Nice potential bullish candle forming at the moment. And again, it's possible this could all change Friday evening, which would be after US releases the jobs data. Excuse me, but it's not looking too much like that's going to be the case so far. Always prepared for it, but so far the markets are looking predominantly bullish despite that divergence in the NASDAQ. So it's a bit of a tricky period because we can see it happening. We know the markets need a bit of a weekly retracement. We know that needs to be the case, but the markets continue to push higher and they maintain their bullishness. Just a couple more having a look at. Let's have a look at Spain. Spain has had an incredibly good run. Honestly, one of the best years it's had in ages once you zoom out far enough. It has had an amazing run this year so far. It's busy pulling back into the moving averages. And even this week, we could see it possibly turn around. It's starting to at least explore that idea of where it is. Should it be turning around where it is now? But it is definitely in an area where starting to go bullish is a very real possibility with regards to the weekly, coming back towards the moving averages. If we have a look at Australia, we have a look at the ASX, you can see it's also on the weekly, has started a bit of a bearish retracement, bit of a pullback towards the moving averages, but it's already overall the trend is looking amazing. Finally, with the Hang Seng as well, you can see testing this level of resistance, looking quite keen to break up and out through that, but overall looking very nice and bullish. So ladies and gentlemen, from looking purely at price action, so many of these charts are just looking hungry for more, looking super bullish. And I don't really expect Friday's data to necessarily change the trends. I know we're coming into September, and therefore correction is very possible. Not really sure if that's going to come through from the jobs data on Friday, but we could get a swing around, especially in currencies. That's a big one there. So that's why I'm just saying exercise that caution. Moving on to Bitcoin here. So we can see that Bitcoin coming back to test this level of resistance for support. So the question is, will the support hold or not? For now, it looks and appears to be holding. So keep an eye on that. This week we could get a nice bullish candle here, which would mean another run up at this 120, I beg your pardon, 120,000 level there, expecting that to do that. So for now, if it holds, otherwise, obviously, if it does break down, I'll expect it to head back down towards the 100,000 level. But for now, it does appear to be holding there. If we compare it to, say, Ethereum is enjoying a very nice, healthy pullback into the moving averages and a bullish signal here. This would be amazing, and probably the way that it's going to unfold, or at least super likely, is to just come in and touch these highs over here. Let's thicken that up a little bit. Just do that, make it more visible. We're likely to see it potentially find support here and continue higher. Right, let's run through and have a look at some of these high-end stocks. So Nvidia as well. Let's just pull back, have a look at that. You can see a very nice, happy, healthy pullback into the moving averages at the moment. Potentially looking nice and bullish over there for now. Again, my expectation is that this trend will remain intact. It's gone sideways. It has lost its uptrend. It has gone sideways. You do have a little bit of bearish divergence. We might just find that it needs a little bit of a weekly correction at this point in time. Let's have a look at Tesla. Tesla really battling. So actually the level it's battling with here is 350. So I'm going to mark that in as well. 350, definitely a level of pretty decent, strong resistance over there. We'll see how it copes with a lot of this. We have sort of tried to break out of this pennant formation or triangle formation that it's been creating over the last few weeks. I think let's get rid of that for now. Let's delete that and clean that up. But what I am going to do is just keep this uptrend over here, just so we could keep track of these high lows. Easy for you guys to keep track of that visually. And you can see this strong level. Now, could very well, looking at the MACD, it's nice and bullish here. We could very well be building up towards a breakout to the upside. Very interesting. So strong conflicting experience. We're due for a bit of a correction on the weekly. We're approaching September, which is often bearish, but we're seeing a ton of bullish signals in the market. Let's have a look at Apple. Apple again, closing up near the highs, even as we speak. Nice uptrend, looking nice and healthy. Alibaba, wow, look at that. Really nice solid breakout of resistance, looking very, very good. And of course, we've got Amazon as well, which is also forming a little bit of a triangle breakout over here, which is statistically more likely to break out to the upside. Let's have a look at Netflix. Let's wrap up on that. Netflix coming back into the moving averages here. We've got a bullish candle. We are still sitting within and above this bullish candle over here. A little bit of a consolidation, but we could likely find ourselves breaking out to the upside. Let me just go ahead and mark that upside there as well. Boom. Putting that in there, again, statistically likely to break to the upside. So, as I said to you guys before, let's just wrap up. We're waiting on that dollar testing that key level. Is it going to break down? Will it do it this week before US data, or will the US data be the thing that pushes it back and around? When we have a look at the global markets indices, for example, we can see gold and silver very nice and bullish from commodities. When we have a look at stocks, we are seeing predominantly bullish signals, even though we could see some creeping divergence, which means that at some point we are due for a correction. I guess the question is, will we have it in September, which is statistically when it's most likely to happen, or are we just going to push through like crazy until January and then have a very big correction in January, or is something else going to come out of the blue? And I don't mean it just randomly. I'm saying there's lots of bizarre reports about Trump not being in front of a camera for the last few days. Is there something wrong with his health? Is that going to impact the markets? We're going to have to see if it's one of those kind of things. But technically the markets maintain their bullishness. Right, traders, be careful out there. Lots of things to trade though. Looking good. Thank you.